Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Boris. My name is Juan Miguel Posada Rieta, and my teammate for this integrated activity of literature is Samuel Enriquez. So, the first thing that, the first thing that we're going to do, I'm going to just tell you what the topics are. So, first off, we have the personal experience of the Holocaust. We then have saviors of the Jewish people. We have who were the Nazis, and what were the concentration camps. And finally, the fifth one is a reflection of what we learned in this unit. Okay, so I'm going to start with doing Anne Frank, who was a diarist of World War II. Okay, so I have two stories for the personal experience of the Holocaust, which is Anne Frank and Elie Wiesel, who was also a Holocaust survivor and then later became a writer. So this is just like a little summary that I have created for you so that you understand what I understood from reading The Diary of a Young Girl, also known as The Diary of Anne Frank. So here we go. So Anne Frank was a German-Dutch writer that had to suffer and go through World War II. At that time, she and her family were Jews, so she had to suffer from World War II, and she lived with some family friends as well, and they had to stay hidden for 2 years. She was always like this happy child, and yeah, since she was little, she had dreamt of one day becoming a writer. And when World War II came, she had the opportunity to write a diary where she wrote what she witnessed during her 2 years hiding with her family. Anne Frank tells us in her diary what she and her family had to go through and what they spent their time doing while hidden every day for 2 consecutive years. Imagine just being trapped inside a house for 2 years without ever coming out. Okay, she also will always be remembered as a happy spirit that died during World War II. At a young age, she managed to achieve the Tony Award, which is like an award that people receive for writing. So yeah, she was in fact able to pursue her dream that she always wanted to become a writer. So yeah, she received it basically for the amazing compilation of the World War II in his book called The Diary of Anne Frank. So yeah, that was like the first experience of this young girl named Anne Frank, who had to stay hidden with her family and with some friends for 2 consecutive years because of the war. We now have Elie Wiesel, who was he was a Holocaust survivor, and he also was a writer. Unfortunately, he died in 2016. So Elie Wiesel was a Romanian Holocaust survivor that suffered by the side of his family after being abducted by the Nazis in May 1944 when he was still a young boy. So it was almost at the end of the war that he was captured by the Nazis, but it was still something really terrible that he had to go through. He was only a 15-year-old teenager when he was captured by the soldiers and taken to the concentration camps. He was taken to Auschwitz, which is like the main concentration camp in Germany. Not in Germany, I'm sorry, in Poland. His mother and one younger sister died there in Auschwitz in Poland, while he, his father, and two other sisters of his were transferred to Germany, where they had to suffer even more. They had to suffer starvation, to get beaten up by the soldiers and be humiliated by the Nazi soldiers. Elie Wiesel was able to survive with his two sisters. Unfortunately, though, his father had died of starvation and dysentery in the Buchenwald concentration camp. So yeah, he managed to survive with both his sisters, but his father didn't have the strength to survive. Although he was a support for his family, and he was able to make his family survive, giving them comfort when he was still alive. Okay, so After the war, Eli became a writer and created books in which he explained the suffering he and his family had to go through during World War II. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his valiant acts of protecting those who are vulnerable and can't protect themselves. He will always be remembered as the few Jews who survived the concentration camps and the Holocaust. So, like, basically, he after he survived, he decided that he was going to become a writer as well, and since he was a primary source, he witnessed everything in the concentration camps, and he wrote about his experiences. So, thank you so much. Now, my friend Samuel Enriquez will be talking to you about the saviors of Jewish people. Thank you.
Okay, hello, Mr. Boris, and I hope you like this Holocaust Museum. And now I'm going to talk about the saviors of the Jewish people. As you know, during the war, there was still many good people who still wanted to help. And these three persons that I compilated here, Irina Sendler, Nicholas Winton, and Tune Suihara, all helped to rescue Jewish people during the war. First, Irina Sendler. She was the rescuer of the children in the Warsaw Ghetto. She was a Polish social worker who, during the World War II, helped to rescue 2,500 Jewish children from the Warsaw Ghetto, and she placed them in convents, or non-Jewish families, because the Nazi didn't persecute the Christians, so she put them with Christian families. She was Christian, although she was against the view of racism that the Nazis had. So that's why she decided to help these children. Now, Nicholas Winton. She was the savior of the children in Czechoslovakia. He was a British banker and a humanitarian who established an organization to rescue the children that were at the risk of getting caught by the Nazis. So he began to give them papers and send them to different families, to different British families, and he saved nearly 669 children. He was born to German and Jewish parents who had emigrated to Britain at the beginning of the 20th century. And he later supervised this help to these children during the World War II. And finally, Jun Suihara. He was a Japanese diplomatic which served as the Vile Consul for Japan in the Empire of Lithuania. Soon after Lithuania was occupied by the Nazis, he helped around 6,000 Jews by giving them transit visas so that they could travel to Japan. Most of them were refugees from Poland or were residents from Lithuania. And he began granting them by his own initiative between July 31st to August 28th, 1940. Now I'm also going to talk about what were the Nazis. The Nazis were, of course, the force behind the World War II, and they were also responsible for the Holocaust, according to history. These people got their start in the early 1900s as they took fascist and anti-Semitic principles and ideals. Basically, racist ideals where they believed there was a need for a master race, which were the Aryan race. That's the name they call themselves, the Aryan race. They believed they needed a superior race, so they believed themselves to be that race, and had the belief that everybody who did not measure up to their ideology should be either forced to work in the concentration camps, like you're gonna see later, or directly killed. The beginning of their existence was mostly a series of meetings and small efforts to gain power. They just tried to gain they tried to get power and tried to convince the people to follow their ideology. But, however, with no real notable events. But later, in 1920, when Adolf Hitler, the infamous Nazi leader, took control of the German Workers' Party, everything changed. It is when he started everything with the Holocaust. Here, my friend Juan Miguel Posada will present to you a little video of the gathering of the troops and the Nazi soldiers.
Thank you, Sam. I will only start sharing audio as well, and here goes the video. It's only like a gathering of all of the soldiers. Please confirm me, Sam, if you can hear. The sound will come. Wait.
In German medieval Nuremberg, the leading squash of Adolf Hitler's Nazi Congress comes to an end. This year they say there are 800,000 pairs of boots standing heel to heel, waiting for the Führer's final speech. And the high spot comes when, after a detailed review of Nazi achievements, Hitler cries, "My life's fight has not been in vain." Blicke bei sich. Mein Lebenskampf ist nicht umsonst gekämpft. Ein Sowjetzeichen soll vor sich hertragen und wir werden in unserem Zeichen wieder siegen.
Okay, so there you go. So now it's my turn. I'm going to talk to you about what the concentration camps were. So yeah, I'm going to start with that. Okay, so the concentration camps were first created after Adolf Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany in March of 1933. The Nazi controlled the concentration camps from 1933 to 1945, so it lasted basically until the end of the war, where the majority of Jews were tortured and killed. There were 1,000 concentration camps located in Germany itself, while there were others that were located in like other parts of Europe, in other countries that Germany had controlled, for instance, in Poland and Austria. Okay, so what was the purpose of the concentration camps? The concentration camps were supposed to be just labor camps, but it ended up being more than that. Jews were subjected to mass starvation on purpose as a labor reserve. Most Jews who were persecuted and killed during the Holocaust were held in Nazi ghettos or forced labor camps, where they were tortured, humiliated, and worst of all, they were killed as well. And now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the ghettos and their purpose. So prior to the deportation to concentration camps and killing centers, the Nazis established ghettos to control and isolate Jewish people, the Jewish populations. Jews imprisoned in ghettos were often exploited as forced workers by the Germans. The ghettos were also known as killing centers, since people would suffer starvation. They would suffer like starvation on purpose and would be killed by the Nazi soldiers just because they wanted to. So it was just like because they thought that they were better, they killed everyone. So the Jews had to suffer throughout the entire World War II because of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. The ghettos were terminated in January 8th, 1943. So that was a little bit of history about the concentration camps, and I will now talk about my reflection of this Unit 2, the Holocaust. So I will read it since I wrote it, and what I learned in this unit of literature of the Holocaust and World War II has changed the way I see things. It has changed my gratitude for everything I have, for everything that God has given, for my family, my parents, my home, my education, and for my health. Each story tells how the Jews suffered and what they had to go through, and that makes me think what I would have done if I was in their place. And I come to the conclusion that I would become really, really grateful for all the little things that to this time I'm not able to see through these little acts. In the story of Anne Frank, for example, I learned that even though you don't have the best home, the best health, or the best education, but you do have your family beside you each and every day of your life, you can survive and you can also be happy. In her diary, Anne went into hiding and they spent countless hours in silence so they wouldn't get caught. But something that was always there and always constant was the great family spirit the Franks and the Van Dams had. I also learned that when we see someone who is vulnerable and that cannot take care of himself or herself, it doesn't matter what race he is, how fat or skinny he is, or how he looks, but we have to help him. We have to make it our responsibility to vouch for him and all the others who can't take care of themselves. So I have now become a better man, a better son, and a better student. I have become more grateful for everything I have, whether it's physical or spiritual. And for that, I am really grateful with this Unit 2 of the Holocaust. So thank you. Now my friend Samuel will talk about his reflection of this unit. So thank you.
Hello, Mr. Boris. I'm going to talk about my reflection of this Unit 2 about the Holocaust. My reflection about this unit is that everybody remembers the past in a different way. You know, we sometimes remember the past through our memories, and most of the time we like to remember the good things, the good stuff. But some people, like these Jews and all of the people who were tortured and suffered during World War II because of the Nazis, have different feelings toward the past. They remember like it poorly or traumatizing because of all the things that have happened to them. They have a different world. It also helps us reflect upon all of those people on Earth who, despite their capabilities or despite the race or religion, were able to help and wanted to help these people. It also reminds that even in the hardest of times, even when with the worst people around like the Nazis, there is still people who is willing to help others and ready to sacrifice their own life even to help them. I also reflected upon the fact that the racism has always been with us. And it is something that we must stop in the future generations, because as we can see with World War II, for example, racism always only brings terror and disgrace to this world. And lastly, it made me think of how lucky we are to live in a world without war. In the middle of the 21st century, where we still have our problems and our imperfections, we're still humans, but we don't have these massive conflicts of terror and problems like Anne Frank, who had to hide during 2 years. It made me reflect on how grateful we have to be for living in the moment where we are. Thank you, Mr. Boris. This was our Holocaust Museum presentation. I hope you like it.
Okay, Mr. Boris. As you saw, Sam did an excellent reflection, and yeah, we just want to thank you for all of your attention, and we really hope that you liked it. So yeah, bye. Thank you. See you later. Okay, so just a little something else that Mr. Boris is like the virtual tour, the museum that I created. I was only able to create it from like the part of the Holocaust, of the concentration camps, and of the of the ghettos. So yeah, I'm going to like share screen so that you can see, and I will be like explaining you. Okay, so here it is. So it's only got a couple of images. Here the tour is programmed to last for 30 seconds, and then now it changed to another image, which is when the Jews were recruited to the labor camps. The first one was just like a ghetto. Now we're in another ghetto. So the ghettos were basically just like little towns that were for labor camp, where the Jews would suffer sometimes starvation. So this is like people gathered waiting for the news inside of the ghettos where they were trapped, where they received the food. So yeah, and now this is like the Warsaw ghetto, which was like the biggest one. As you can see, there are some like Nazi soldiers around here, and so yeah. And yeah, this is basically all. So thank you very much. We can like move it by our own like this, but we adjusted it so that it was not manually, the opposite actually. And as you can see, these are like Nazis and people like moving. So yeah, that's all the virtual tours that we have. So thank you much for this opportunity. So yes, bye, and thanks again for your last bit of attention. So yeah, bye bye.